Namaskar, good evening viewers. You're watching the news. I'm Bhawna Nayar. This is one bulletin where we provide you all the big developments of the day that made headlines from national and international arena. These are the headlines at 9. Prime Minister Modi launches 11 projects worth rupees 31,500 crore in Chennai. Says Bangalore-Chennai Expressway will connect two key centres of growth. India, fastest growing economy among G20 countries, has third largest startup environment in the world, asserts Prime Minister Modi at Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. Medical Certification Report 2020 released. COVID-19 was the third biggest cause of death in 2020. Heart disease, asthma, pneumonia and other diseases accounted for 42% deaths. Former Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa questioned over violence that claimed 10 lives on 9th May. Southwest monsoon advances towards Kerala coast, expected to reach Lakshadweep in the next 48 hours. Heavy rain forecast in Kerala and Lakshadweep. Let's now take a quick look at some more important stories of the day. Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate India's biggest drone festival, Bharat Drone Mahotsav 2022 on Friday in New Delhi. CBDT notifies rule making PAN and Aadhaar number compulsory for cash deposit and withdrawals exceeding Rs 20 lakh in a financial year. West Bengal Cabinet announces decision to amend law to replace Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee as Chancellor of all state-run universities. Militants killed TV artist Amreen Bhatt, injured her 10-year-old nephew in Jammu and Kashmir. Vinay Kumar Saxena takes oath as Delhi Lieutenant Governor. Ministry of Education releases National Achievement Survey 2021 report. Yogi government presents biggest ever budget of 6,15,000 crore rupees for Uttar Pradesh. World Bank chief warns Russia-Ukraine conflict could cause global recession. Death toll from 4 bombs in Afghanistan rises to 16. And Murli Sri Shankar wins gold medal with 8.31 meter long jump at the 12th International Jumping Meet in Greece. And now the top story of the day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid the foundation stones for 11 projects costing over Rs 31,000 crore at the Jawaharlal Nehru Indoor Stadium in Chennai. The projects relate to major infrastructure sectors like the railways, petroleum, housing and roads. Speaking on the occasion, the Prime Minister said 5 railway stations are being redeveloped keeping in mind future needs. The Prime Minister said today India is working to expand its gas pipeline network. Work is being done to take high-speed internet to every village.
We have gathered here to celebrate yet another glorious chapter of Tamil Nadu's development journey. Projects worth over 31,000 crore rupees are either inaugurated or the foundation stones are being laid.
Further, Prime Minister said that India is the fastest growing economy among the G20 countries. Prime Minister Modi was addressing students of the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. The Prime Minister also said India has provided conducive environment for startups. He added that the country received a record amount of foreign direct investment last year. The Prime Minister asserted that the world is seeing that India means business. He said that this is not only the achievement of the government, but also the youth and graduates of institutions like ISB.
आज भारत G20 देशों के समूह में फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी है। स्मार्टफोन डेटा कंज्यूमर के मामले में भारत पहले नंबर पे है। इंटरनेट यूजर्स की संख्या को देखें तो भारत दुनिया में दूसरे नंबर पर है। दुनिया का तीसरा सबसे बड़ा स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम भारत में है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi completed 8 years in office on Thursday. In this period, the Modi government initiated many economic reforms and initiatives in the field of foreign policy and public welfare. He also led the BJP to a second term in power in 2019 with a bigger victory than in 2014. Some of the groundbreaking steps of the Modi government include the implementation of GST, the law against triple talaq, the abrogation of Article 317 Jammu and Kashmir, the surgical strike against Pakistan, demonetization, the implementation of CAA, and rapid strides in digital economy. The 8-year period also saw the start of many welfare schemes, including the Jan Dhan Yojana, Ujjwala Yojana, Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana, Ayushman Bharat, and Swachh Bharat Mission. The Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana was started during the COVID-19 pandemic. About 80 crore people are being benefited by the scheme. The government also targeted the construction of 2 crore houses in rural areas by 2022. And now news from across the nation. Vice President of India M. Venkaiah is visiting Gabon, Senegal and Qatar from 30th May to 7th June. Several bilateral agreements will be signed during the visit to these 3 countries. This will be India's first vice presidential visit to these 3 countries. The AIADMK announced 2 candidates, including former State Law Minister C.V. Shanmugam and Panchayat Union President R. Dharmal for the Rajya Sabha elections from Tamil Nadu. The DMK also named its 3 candidates and left 1 seat for its ally, Congress. Security forces foiled an infiltration bid in Jammu and Kashmir's Kupwara district. 3 Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists were killed. Incriminating material including arms and ammunition was found from the terrorists. The Varanasi District Court heard arguments on the issue of taking the Gyanvapi Srinagar Gauri case to trial stage. The arguments could not be completed on Thursday. The court has fixed 30th May as the next date of its hearing. A Delhi court granted interim relief from arrest to Karti Chidambaram till 30th May in a case registered by the Enforcement Directorate. The case relates to an alleged scam related to the issue of visas to 263 Chinese nationals. The court also issued notice to the Directorate on Karti Chidambaram's anticipatory bail plea. The Enforcement Directorate has filed a charge sheet against Congress Karnataka Unit President D.K. Shiva Kumar and others under the Money Laundering Act. The ED had registered a case against Shiva Kumar and others in September 2018. The Supreme Court quashed the Delhi High Court's order staying the Serious Fraud Investigation Office probe into 9 companies linked to the Sahara Group and allowed the SFIO's appeal against the High Court order. President Ramnath Kovind said India's freedom struggle laid the foundation of gender equality in the country. Addressing the National Convention of Women Legislators in Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala, the President recalled the inspiring contribution of women who fought relentlessly for freedom from colonialism. Starting from women are passing through a challenging phase in history, the President added that women have been proven their mettle in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. The President appreciated the Kerala government's initiative for women empowerment.
Kerala has always contributed more than its fair share when it comes to healthcare personnel. And women of this state have set an example of selfless care even at a great personal risk during this period of crisis.
COVID-19 was the 3rd biggest cause of death in 2020, according to the report on Medical Certification of Cause of Death 2020. The report is prepared by India's Registrar General and Census Commissioner. According to the report, COVID-19 accounted for 9% deaths that year, which was over 160,000 people. According to the report, 42% of the deaths were due to diseases related to the circulatory system, asthma, pneumonia, including heart disease. Infectious diseases accounted for 32.1% of deaths people in 2020. Respiratory diseases were responsible for 10% deaths. Time for a short break here. On the other side, Boeing Starliner crew taxi returns from space station. All this after this short break. You stay tuned to Sansad TV.
Why does diplomacy matter? And how does it impact the common man? How did this happen? And what can be done to repair this important relationship? What is new in our foreign policy?
आपकी संसद में इस हफ्ते देखिए 55 वर्षों से राजनीति में सक्रिय भूमिका निभाने वाले पूर्व केंद्रीय मंत्री और मुंबई दक्षिण संसदीय सीट के सांसद अरविंद सावंत की कहानी, उन्हीं की जुबानी।
आपके सांसद में देखिए मेरी बात संसद टीवी के साथ शुक्रवार शाम 7:30 बजे।
Welcome back after the break. You're watching the news. Time now for all the main developments from the Russia-Ukraine war that has completed more than 90 days. Ukrainian President Zelensky on Wednesday strongly rebuffed people who he said are suggesting that Ukraine give up sea control of areas occupied by Russian forces for a peace agreement. Zelensky said it recalled people who in 1938 ceded territory to Hitler in the hopes of preventing World War II. He said such people are disregarding the interest of the ordinary Ukrainians for an illusion of peace. Zelensky said that we have to remember that values are not just words. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said his country has no preconditions to restart negotiations with Russia, but that Moscow should have talks in good faith. Kuleba said that if Russia sees negotiation as it did in the first months of the war, throwing papers on the table and saying take it or leave it, these are not negotiations. He added it was not diplomacy but bullying. All Russian servicemen who participate in the special military operation in Ukraine should be treated as heroes regardless of awards, Vladimir Putin said at a meeting of the State Council Board. Payments to the military personnel in Ukraine need to be increased, he added. Putin also said that the dollar is shrinking and the ruble is strengthening. Speaking about the economic situation in Russia, the Russian president said that the unemployment rate is getting lower than expected. Putin also visited a military hospital in Moscow on Wednesday and met some of the soldiers wounded in the military operation in Ukraine. Putin was accompanied by the Russian defense minister. He talked to doctors and servicemen currently undergoing treatment. Ukraine's defense ministry spokesman said Russia had temporary tactical success in some areas of the Donbas region. He stressed that this shouldn't be interpreted as the retreat of Ukrainian forces. He mentioned that in some areas of Ukrainian units are engaging in a counter-offensive, adding that Russian forces have intensified the use of aviation in their offensive on the Donbas. Turkey is in negotiations with Russia and Ukraine to open a corridor via the Bosphorus for grain exports from Ukraine. Ukraine's Black Sea ports have been blocked since Russia invaded in February, and more than 20 million tons of grain are stuck in silos there. Russia and Ukraine account for nearly a third of global wheat supplies, and lack of exports from Ukraine is contributing to a growing global food crisis. Time now for some other global updates. Former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan staged a show of strength in Islamabad on Thursday. Addressing his supporters, he gave a 6-day deadline to the government for announcing elections and dissolving assemblies and warned that he would return to the capital with the entire nation otherwise.
Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan cancelled a planned protest in Islamabad on Thursday after leading thousands on a march towards Parliament, demanding the government's resignation.
तुम्हें देनी पड़ेगी आजादी, तुम्हें देनी पड़ेगी पाकिस्तान का मतलब क्या? ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह.
Imran Khan's followers began converging in Islamabad on Wednesday, with nearly 10,000 people reaching the city centre around midnight. The former cricketer turned politician gave Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, who replaced him in April, less than a week's time to call for new elections, warning that if his government did not comply, he would return to the capital with 3 million supporters.
6 दिन के अंदर आप इलेक्शन अनाउंस करें, जून के महीने में इलेक्शन अनाउंस करें और असेंबलीज डिसॉल्व करें. अगर 6 दिन के बाद ये नहीं करेंगे आप तो मैं सारी अपनी कौम को लेके वापस इस्लामाबाद आऊंगा।
Last month, Imran Khan was removed as Prime Minister after losing a no-confidence vote nearly 3.5 years after being elected. Since then, he has held rallies across the country, saying his removal from office was the result of a US organized plot. Washington has denied the allegation, and Sharif has called Khan's claim a pack of lies. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Moving ahead, Sri Lankan police on Thursday questioned former Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa on the violent clashes between his supporters and anti-government protesters. Rajapaksa's statement was recorded for 3 hours. At least 10 people were killed and more than 200 were injured in the violence that broke out in the country on the 9th of May. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed concern over the situation in Sri Lanka. He said Sri Lanka is passing through difficult times, and as a close friend and neighbour, India is providing all possible assistance to Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka is passing through difficult times. I am sure you are concerned with the development there. As a close friend and neighbor, India is providing all possible support to Sri Lanka. This includes financial support, support of fuel, food, medicines, and other essential items.
Moving ahead, Europe, North America, Israel and Australia have identified more than 200 cases of monkeypox. Officials around the world are keeping a watch for more cases because, for the first time, the rare disease appears to be spreading among people who didn't travel to Africa, where monkeypox is endemic. Experts, however, stress that the risk to the general population is low. But what is the virus all about? Let's take a look at these facts.
Monkeypox virus originates in wild animals like rodents and primates and occasionally jumps to people. It belongs to the same virus family as smallpox. The illness was first identified in 1958 after 2 outbreaks of a pox-like disease in research monkeys, hence the name monkeypox. But more than monkeys, rodents are the main reservoir of the virus. The World Health Organization estimates there are thousands of monkeypox infections in about a dozen African countries every year. WHO estimates the disease is fatal for up to 1 in 10 people. Monkeypox virus belongs to the same virus family as smallpox but causes milder symptoms. Most monkeypox patients experience only fever, body aches, chills, and fatigue. People with more serious illness may develop a rash and lesions on the face and hands that can spread to other parts of the body. Most people recover within about 2 to 4 weeks. Monkeypox can be fatal for up to 6% of cases and is thought to be more severe in children. Smallpox vaccines are effective against monkeypox and antiviral drugs are also being developed. The European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control recommended high-risk contacts be offered a smallpox vaccine. WHO experts said this week that the leading theory is that monkeypox was likely spread after sexual activity at 2 recent raves in Europe. Experts emphasize that anyone can be infected through close contact with a sick person, their clothing or bed sheets. Monkeypox requires very close contact to spread, so it is not likely to prompt big waves of disease like COVID-19. The cases so far have been mild, with no deaths reported. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And now news from across the world. Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa addressed the World Economic Forum in Davos on Thursday and appealed for international assistance to help his country's economic crisis. Rajapaksa said immediate help is needed to import essential medicines, food and fuel. Currently, the country lacks the financial wherewithal to buy imported necessities and pay its debts. The crisis has fueled political turmoil, with protesters demanding Rajapaksa's resignation. Senior officials from G7 countries are holding a 3-day meeting in Berlin to agree common targets for the shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy to curb climate change. German Economy and Climate Action Minister Robert Habeck said the G7 nations can lead the way on ending the use of coal, a heavily polluting fossil fuel that's responsible for a large chunk of global greenhouse gas emissions. A vessel carrying more than 800 Haitians trying to reach the United States wound up instead on the coast of central Cuba. It was the largest group seen yet in a swelling exodus from crisis-stricken Haiti. Red Cross officials said the 842 Haitians were being housed at a tourist campground. The group reportedly included 70 children and 97 women. The Haitians said they called for help with light signals after being abandoned and cast adrift by their captain. Malaysia's Prime Minister said on Thursday that the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework (IPEF) will help strengthen economic cooperation within the region. Ismail made the remarks in Tokyo while addressing the Future of Asia's event. Earlier in the week, US President Joe Biden announced that his nation, as well as Australia, Brunei, India, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam have signed the IPEF Trade Pact. The European Space Agency says there is no prospect of ever cutting ties with Russia on the International Space Station, adding that such a move wouldn't even be possible technically. The Director General of the European Space Agency said ESA and Russia rely on each other for various parts of the ISS operations and that they have no choice than to work together. But on Earth, the agency has been severing ties as a result of the war in Ukraine, and that has resulted in the agency's abandoning plans to do a joint mission to Mars. Boeing's crew taxi returned to Earth from the International Space Station on Wednesday, completing a repeat test flight before NASA astronauts climb aboard. The Starliner capsule parachuted into the New Mexico desert just 4 hours after leaving the orbiting lab, with airbags attached to the cushion the landing. Only a mannequin was on board. Take a look at this report.
2.5 years after its botched first try, Starliner seems to have achieved a perfect touchdown, aside from thruster failures and cooling system snags. Boeing's Starliner returned to the desolate White Sands missile range in New Mexico on Wednesday. It marked a huge success for NASA, which the space agency has long wanted. Two competing US companies ferrying astronauts for added insurance as it drastically reduced its reliance on Russia for rides to and from the space station. Elon Musk's SpaceX is already the established leader, launching astronauts since 2020 and even tourists. Boeing tried to reach the space station first in 2019, but software errors left the capsule in the wrong orbit. The company tried again last summer, but corroded valves halted the countdown. Following more repairs, Starliner finally lifted off from Cape Canaveral last Thursday and docked to the space station on Friday. Station astronauts tested Starliner's communication and computer systems during its 5 days at the space station. They also unloaded hundreds of kilograms of groceries and other supplies that flew up in the Boeing capsule, then filled it with empty air tanks and other discarded gear. Along for the ride was Starliner's test dummy, Rosie the Rocketeer. The repairs and do-over cost Boeing nearly $600 million. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Time now for all this sporting action. Starting with hockey, a confident India routed Indonesia 16-0 to enter Super Fours of the Asia Cup hockey tournament. India replaced Pakistan at the number 2 spot in Pool A and deprived them of a World Cup berth. India needed to win this match by 15 goals to make it to the Super Fours. The young Indian team was 6-0 up in the first half. India scored 10 more goals in the second half to reach the last 4. In cricket now, Royal Challengers Bangalore defeated Lucknow Super Giants by 14 runs in the eliminator match played at the Eden Gardens in Kolkata on Wednesday evening. Rajat Patidar made a superb 112 not out of 54 balls, scoring his century in a mere 49 deliveries to help RCB post a formidable 207 for 4. Some excellent death over bowling from Harshal Patel and Josh Hazelwood restricted LSG to 193 in their chase. Royal Challengers Bangalore will now face Rajasthan Royals in the second qualifier match to be played tomorrow in Ahmedabad's Narendra Modi Stadium. Qualifier 2 and the final match are to be hosted in the Narendra Modi Stadium itself. The newly built stadium has a seating capacity of more than 130,000 people. Gujarat Titan have already made it to the finals. It is expected to create a new spectator record for a cricket match in the final to be played on Sunday. On to the athletics. India's Murli Srishankar won the gold medal at the 12th International Jumping Meet in Kalathea, Greece, with an effort of 8.31 meter. Srishankar is the current national record holder with a jump of 8.36 meter. Srishankar came into the competition on back of an excellent domestic form, where he repeatedly breached the 8-meter mark. The Kerala athlete logged 8.17 meter at the season-opening Indian Open in Thiruvananthapuram before breaking his own national record at the Federation Cup in Kozhikode. In tennis now, Spanish League teenager sensation Carlos Alcaraz and third seed Alexander Zverev both saved a match point in 5-set French Open thrillers, while 13-time winner Rafael Nadal and reigning champion Novak Djokovic eased into the third round on Wednesday. Alcaraz, widely tipped up as a title contender, rallied from the brink to defeat compatriot Albert Ramos Vinolas 6-1, 6-7, 5-7, 7-6, 6-4 after 4 hours and 34 minutes. And before we wrap, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Modi launches 11 projects worth rupees 31,500 crore in Chennai, says Bengaluru-Chennai Expressway will connect 2 key centres of growth. India, fastest growing economy among G20 countries, has third largest startup environment in the world, asserts Prime Minister Modi at Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. Medical Certification Report 2020 released. COVID-19 was the third biggest cause of death in 2020. Heart disease, asthma, pneumonia and other diseases accounted for 42% deaths. Former Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa questioned over violence that claimed 10 lives on 9th of May. Southwest monsoon advances towards Kerala coast, expected to reach Lakshadweep in the next 48 hours. Heavy rain forecast in Kerala and Lakshadweep. That's all we have in this bulletin. To keep yourself updated, stay tuned for more informative programs on Sansad TV. Till then, goodbye, namaskar.